Hello, and a very warm welcome back to another episode of Angels and Stardust with myself, Órla Allen. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about Reiki and all things Reiki related. So let's just start off by explaining what Reiki is. So Reiki is the universal life force energy. And what that basically means is that there is a life force, or there is an energy, or there is a source where all things come from. There is a source which animates all things. So basically, human beings, it's the difference between a dead body that's unanimated and a living one that is speaking to you, like myself just now. It can be animals and their wee personalities and their quirks, which make them individual. It can be plants, it can be anything that grows, basically anywhere there's energy. So it can be the wind, it can be the sunshine. Anything that's energy is the universal life force. We're all part of it. We all have it within us. And Reiki is basically a Japanese name for universal life force energy. And in this process, basically a practitioner of Reiki, so somebody who has been attuned to the energy, will work with somebody. Now this can be hands-on or it can be hands-off. There's no really right or wrong answer to that. I'll speak a wee bit more about that in a second. But basically somebody comes to a Reiki practitioner and they will give them energy which is from the source. So basically we channel the energy, the universal life force energy, through us and to the person that we're giving the Reiki to. And what happens is that it's not that we're actually healing the person. It's not that we're claiming we're going to heal the person. What we're actually doing is boosting their energy, boosting their life force. So if you imagine somebody who is maybe sick in their bed in hospital and they have very little energy, or they're lethargic, and maybe somebody that's had food poisoning, for example, if you've ever experienced anything like that. So they're, after being sick, they're completely drained, they lack energy, maybe they're fatigued. And what the universal life force energy does is the practitioner channels it. Now they don't use their own energy, but they channel the universal life force energy into the person. So basically it gives them a boost of energy, and by having this boost of energy, it allows them to heal themselves. So it allows their body to act in a way that it is helping itself to heal, and it's helping the person to feel better. Now, we are all mind, body and soul beings. The mind isn't separate from the soul isn't separate from the physical body. So where Reiki's concerned, you may come to a Reiki practitioner, and the example I usually give, because it's the easiest one to explain and to understand, is if you have a headache. So say you came to me for a session and you said, right, okay, I'd like some Reiki. I've had this really bad headache for a day, and I'd like you to take it away from me, or I'd like the energy to take it away from me, or I'd like you to heal me from this, or just give me some relief. Now I could channel the energy towards the head and ask for the headache to be cleared, or I can ask for this person to receive the healing that they require to help them in whatever way, and then put on the little caveat, and we'd like to lift this headache. Now what that does is, you could have a headache because you're dehydrated. You could have a headache because you're hungry. You could have a headache because you are stressed from a situation either in your life or in your work. You could have a headache because you haven't had enough sleep. So there's not one fix-all answer to what the headache requires, or what has caused the headache, I should say. So when we channel the universal life force energy in, we're boosting your system. We're saying to your system, right, okay, we're giving you a boost here. We want to help clear this headache, but we're sending, or we're directing the energy to where it's needed to go to, where it's needed most, essentially. And what this does is, it means that if the headache is caused because of some sort of stress, maybe you're worried about a situation which hasn't happened yet. Maybe you're stressed about not meeting your bills at the end of the month, or maybe you're stressed about having to have a conversation with somebody and maybe you think that they're going to overreact to it, or they're going to start shouting with you or shouting at you or fighting with you. So this energy will then be directed to your mental health, and it will help you see clearly what the situation is. It will help you find the correct words you need to speak to the person, or give you a plan of action of how you're going to deal with the situation. Now, if the situation is that you haven't had enough sleep, maybe you haven't had the sleep because you're having trouble sleeping. You know, it might not be an external reason for it. There may not be like a loud baby crying or anything that's waking you up. It could be just something that's going on with you, which means you can't sleep, which has resulted in you having this headache. So that energy will be directed to whatever it is that's causing you not to sleep. And a lot of people will say this actually after they've had Reiki, they have a really good night's sleep after it. And sleep is one of the best ways in which you can help your body heal, and you can heal it yourself essentially. So people that aren't sleeping an awful lot will find that they have some sort of issues going on because they're not getting enough sleep, because the body needs sleep. And perhaps that is a headache. So maybe this is where your headaches are coming from, because you're not getting enough sleep. The person comes to the practitioner asking for help with a headache, but the energy is directed to wherever it's needed most. And in doing so, that means that the practitioner can help the person on a deeper level. So if the energy was just simply directed to remove the headache, that could happen quite easily. But whatever caused the headache in the first place, say it was a lack of sleep, when you go to bed that night, you don't sleep and you end up with a headache again. So the Reiki energy could be used to help you sleep that night, and then you have a really good night's sleep. You wake up the next day and you're feeling so much more revitalised, and you've no headache, and it's brilliant and happy days. Now, it could be, that's a very, very simple explanation for it, but it's an easy way to understand it. And I must also say I am a Reiki master, practitioner and teacher, but the views that I share in this are my own. They're ones that have either been passed on to me or things that I have experienced in my own journey as a Reiki practitioner. So that just thought I'd throw that little caveat in there for you. So if anybody's disagreeing with anything I'm saying, that's no problem. It's your right to have a different opinion to me. So yeah, all the opinions here are mine. Like I was saying to you earlier, it's mind, body and soul. You may have something weighing heavy on your mind, which is going to manifest itself in a physical situation. And if you think of it, if there's something that's upsetting you, and you've held on to it and it's manifested itself in a physical issue, then if you come to me for healing for that physical issue, the energy is going to be sent to the source of the problem, which could be the emotional stuff. So one of the things that we always tell people that come to visit us is that, as a practitioner obviously, is that you may experience sadness afterwards. You may find that you want to cry. You may feel like you just need to unburden to somebody, which is perfectly fine. It's perfectly natural, and it's all part of the healing process. And what's happening there is that you've cleared out whatever it is that you were afraid to speak about or that you needed to get off your chest. And in doing so, that's released some of the tension which has caused whatever the physical ailment is in your body. So that's a quick overview of what Reiki actually is. Now, like I say, you can do it hands-on or you can do it hands-off. My personal experience or preference is to do it hands-off. I find that I can feel the energy and I have a stronger awareness of the energy if I'm not actually touching the person. Now, I do like to maybe lay a hand on their shoulder to let them know that I'm starting or to let them know that I'm finishing. And it just means that they have an opportunity to kind of come round, whether they're sitting in a chair or they're lying down. There's no moment where they question whether I'm finished or I'm still working with them. Because the simple fact is, some people will feel and see amazing things when they're getting Reiki, and other people just won't experience anything. You know, there's a wonderful healer I know, and he basically will not feel anything during the healing, but then he'll have an amazing night's sleep afterwards. So he knows that the healing's gone to wherever it's needed, it's helped him, and he feels better afterwards. But during the actual process, even though he's a healer himself, he's not aware of what's going on. He doesn't feel the energy, he doesn't feel anything changing within his body, he just trusts the process. So when I'm working with a client, what I usually find is that I will keep my hand maybe about 2 or 3 inches off the body, and I keep it that far apart. 1, because I like the feel of the energy at that distance, and 2, because I don't actually want to touch the person. And sometimes I'll close my eyes and just really get into the groove of the energy. And if you're not looking at what you're doing, it's very easy for you to touch somebody. And if you're around an area that's sensitive, you don't want to be touching people. Do you know what I mean? But even if you're not, even if you're just working on an arm or a shoulder, if you touch somebody when they're not expecting it, that can give them a jolt. It can make them kind of jump. And that's the last thing you want to do, because these people sitting in the chair are in a lovely, relaxed, beautiful, euphoric state. And you want to keep them there. You don't want to jar them out of it. You don't want to give them a scare or a jump. So the last thing you want to do is actually touch the person if you're not supposed to. Now, one thing we do always do, or should always do, is when we're working with somebody and we are going to touch them, we say to them, look, is it okay if I touch you here? Is it okay if I touch you there? Would you like it hands-on? Now, some people will come to you and they won't want you to touch them. I really prefer it when practitioners don't actually physically touch me, except for my head. Now, the reason for that is I'm very sensitive around about my third eye and my crown chakra. Perhaps it's because I'm a medium, perhaps it's because I'm a Reiki practitioner, perhaps it's because I'm a spiritual healer, or because of all the things combined. But when somebody's working around my head, it can be quite intrusive. The energy can be. So it feels a little bit uncomfortable because I'm super aware around those places. So when it comes to working at my head, I will say to the person, please put your hand straight on my head. So if somebody puts their hand on my head, I feel the benefit of it. I enjoy it. It feels amazing, but I don't have this pressure. It's like something about the connection, skin on skin, feels better, and just around the head. So either on the top of the head or at the back of the head or the front of the head where the third eye is. When they're working anywhere else, I'm like, no, hands off, thanks. Now, that's not to say that I've never had a hands-on healing, because I have. Some people like to touch your elbows and your joints and your shoulders and stuff. And yeah, there's times where I will feel the need to touch somebody's elbow. But I've said to them beforehand, look at, especially if somebody has come to me because they have a sore knee or sore shoulder or sore elbow, what I'll say to them is, okay, I'm going to work hands off if that's okay with you, but when it comes to your shoulder, your elbows, is it okay if I touch you in those places? And do you know what? I've never had anybody tell me no yet, but that's also not to say that there's not a first time for everything. Now, some people will actually come to you and ask you to do hands-on with them. Now, this can be somebody who maybe doesn't have any physical contact. Some people are very tactile and they like being touched. And some people, like I say, like myself, when it comes to the head, the crown chakra and the third eye chakra, I find it more comfortable if the hands are physically put on me. And I have no problem working with somebody who wants me to lay hands on them. Now, obviously, just because I am putting my hands on their shoulders and their arms and their legs, their stomach, I'm not going to touch any intimate parts. So I will say to them, look, when it comes to certain areas in your body, I am going to do it hands off for you. But yeah, I'm happy to touch the rest of the body, just not the intimate areas, which would be inappropriate for me to do and which might make the person feel uncomfortable. And a lot of practitioners will say, well, this is how I do it. And that's fair enough if you're upfront with the person and say, look, I'm going to do this hands-on. And a lot of people expect Reiki to be hands-on, which is perfectly fine too. But there's also a large group of the community who think that Reiki should be hands-off. So I think at the end of the day, if you're either booking a Reiki session or you are a Reiki practitioner, then the best thing you can do is discuss with it before you take the booking or before you do the booking. And that basically means you know what the situation is, they know what the situation is, and nobody's going to feel uncomfortable on the day when you're speaking to the person. When it comes to the actual session, that's up to the practitioner and the client as to what way they want you to do it. So a lot of clients will actually get me to talk them into a meditation, and then once I know they're comfortably in the meditation, I'll do my opening prayer for Reiki, and I will start doing the hands-on healing. Now, the hands-on healing part of it is actually really, really fascinating, because one of the things that you become aware of the more you do is that you'll be aware of a heartbeat, and you'll notice that your heartbeat's beating at the same pace as the heartbeat you're aware of the client's. Or your breathing will be the same. You'll notice that you've gone in sync with the person, which is a really good sign, especially if your hands off. It's a really good sign that you've connected in with the person and the energy is free flowing between the two of you because you're both in sync with each other. Now, if you're not touching somebody, how can your body physically resonate with their heartbeat? How can your body physically resonate with their breathing? Especially if you've had your eyes closed so you're not aware of it, and they're not making any sound with their breathing either. So the only way that it could happen is by this connection, this universal life force energy that you're transferring from the universe through yourself and to the person, which also has a little kind of thing too, where you're receiving the Reiki at the same time as you're giving it to the person, because it's coming through you as well. So the Reiki energy really is amazing. It's amazing for the person who receives it. It's amazing for the person who gives it. And an awful lot of practitioners actually prefer giving Reiki more so than receiving it, because it's a stronger energy that they see themselves because they're getting it first and it's not coming through somebody else beforehand. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, right, I fancy getting some Reiki, let's see what it's all about. Something to keep in mind is the fact that we recommend you do 4 sessions of Reiki. Now, it could be that you just want to feel the energy and experience it, and you don't really have an awful lot going on with your physical body or your mental health or trauma. So you don't necessarily need the 4 sessions, but 4 sessions are a good way of getting you to feel what it's all about, to get you feel the different stages of it, and for it to actually start working on you and to benefit you long term, rather than just a quick fix, rather than just clearing away the headache, but the initial problem or whatever the issue was that was causing the headache is still sticking around. Now, one of the most amazing things about Reiki is that it doesn't just work on human being to human being. It can work from human being to animal. So it can work from a cat or a dog or anyone who's sick. It can work on a horse, a cow, you name it. The energy can be transferred to it as well. But there are other ways in which you can use Reiki. And one of these ways is that I'm going to tell you a little story now. I used to run a spiritualist church, and we had a CD player going back, and we had a set of CDs with various different famous songs, which we used to sing as a congregation. But the CDs would get a little bit scratched because they're going in and out of like a CD book, you know, one of these books that holds all the individual CDs in it. And it's only natural that there would be little scratches and stuff that appear on them. So these had been well-loved CDs, and it was always the one that was listened to the most that had the most scratches on it. And there was maybe about 5 or 6 of us in the congregation who'd all had our Reiki 1. We were all investigating the different ways in which you could use the Reiki energy. And we'd been told that basically it can work on anything, not just on body to body. So one of the ways in which it used to absolutely blow my mind, one of us would go over to the CD player. So if we're playing the song, it's put on, the CD player starts playing and it starts skipping. One of us would go over to the CD player and give it Reiki, and without fail, it would stop skipping and it would play perfectly fine. And it was amazing, and it would only do it when somebody was giving it Reiki. Now, another wee story. I drove from the north of Ireland. Well, I drove from Scotland over on the ferry to Northern Ireland, then down to the south. And my family are quite far down into Wicklow, so I had quite a long journey to go. And about halfway, now it was just how it worked, about halfway between one junction on the motorway and another junction on the motorway, the car made this really loud bang and I had to pull in. I didn't know what was wrong with it. I was nowhere near a garage. I was nowhere near an exit. I was just pure and utter panic stations. And I'm on the hard shoulder, and you're supposed to get out of the car and stand up away from it in case anybody crashes into you or whatever. So I pulled in, and that was fine. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? So I ended up giving the car Reiki. If you didn't hear me say that, I gave the car Reiki. So I did my opening prayer. I was like, please, please, please let the car get there. Please, please, please let it not be completely broken. Now, it lost all power. It lost all kind of get up and go. So I pulled it over, let it cool down for a minute, gave it some Reiki, turned it back on, and it drove for me like a dream. And that is not a lie, that is an absolute fact. And I had a witness in the car with me to that fact. So we got all the way down to the south, we got all the way round where we went to, we got all the way back up to the north, we got all the way back to Scotland before the car needed to see a mechanic. And that was through the wonders that is Reiki. Now, I do not recommend that you only run your car on Reiki energy. I think it's really appropriate to go and see a mechanic if you can. It just so happened that we were nowhere near one of our own mechanics that would usually have done it. But thankfully it made its way all the way down to the south and all the way back to Scotland again without another problem. And it went straight into the mechanics the next day and got sorted out then. But yeah, the Reiki energy is amazing. It's really good for patching up things like that just need a little bit more, a little bit of a kind of soft fix for a short time. But like I say, it's about a 2-hour journey down to where we were going to, and obviously there's no driving when you're going on to the ferry. But then it's another maybe hour and a half, depending on where you come out the ferry at the other side to get back to where we were in Scotland. So it was a long journey, and Reiki energy definitely got the car there, got us there, and everybody was safe and sound in it, thankfully. And this leads in nicely to what I do with my students. So you may or may not be aware that I've written a book, and I've published 10 books now. I've written a few more than 10, but my very first book was a book called Just for Today, a Reiki Master's Teaching Handbook. And basically this book is for anybody who is a qualified Reiki Master and they're going to do some teaching. And it basically breaks down what they need to look at. So, little things like health and safety. Little things like, are you going to do it in your house? Are you going to hire a hall for it? Stuff like that. But we also look at the writing of the course, because it's encouraged that each Reiki master writes their own course and gives their own spin or their own energy into the Reiki. It's really good as a teacher to know the text inside out because you've written it yourself, but it's also really good for getting into it your own flavour. So each Reiki master has certain elements which they bring to the table in a way that other Reiki practitioners wouldn't. So perhaps the person is empathetic more so, perhaps the person is more hands-on, perhaps somebody's more hands-off. There's lots of different things and lots of different ways in which each individual practitioner can bring their own little spin or their own little flavour to it. And my flavour to it was writing this book, because when I was at university I trained as a teacher. Now I only did 3 out of the 4 years, so I got my qualification in technology and didn't get it in education, but it was just because I didn't I took 2 years out, and they told me I had to redo my teaching training, and I was like, well, I don't really want this anyway, so I'm going to take my leave. And they were like, right, okay, well, you can qualify with your degree in technology if you want. I was like, happy days, thank you very much, and away I went. But at the same time, I've always had a softness or a fondness or a relatability to the teaching side of things. And when I did the Reiki courses, I found that you're given the theory. You're told, here's Reiki 1, here's Reiki 2, here's Reiki 3, here's your teaching. And you're not actually told how to teach. You're not told what to look for, what to think about. You're not told that you should be a good Reiki teacher, or that you will be a good Reiki teacher, or that you don't have to be the same person that everybody else is. And that's what my book's about. So it basically encourages people. It reaffirms the fact that they don't need to feel that they're not worthy enough to be able to pass on the energy. Because this is the big thing, there's people out there who are brimming with confidence, and I absolutely love that for them. I think it's fantastic. Now, some people come across as arrogant with that confidence, and some people have to fake it, and that's perfectly fine too. But there are an awful lot of people, spiritual people especially, out there who should be teaching this stuff, who should be bringing their own flavour into, especially Reiki, because Reiki is such an amazing energy. If you bring an amazing person and amazing Reiki together and create this wonderful teaching package, then that's going to be absolutely phenomenal for the students that come to read it. But if the absolutely amazing person doesn't have the confidence, or doesn't have the arrogance, I suppose, to believe that they can do it enough, then they're not going to be able to give this amazing package to fellow Reiki students, fellow Reiki practitioners, fellow Reiki masters. And the point being, they need to have the confidence. So my book encourages them to look at all the different steps. So instead of saying, right, okay, you're now a Reiki master, you need to rewrite all the courses for yourself, and you need to decide how you're going to teach it. What my book does is it breaks it down into small bite-sized pieces. It says, right, okay, look, we're going to look at Reiki 1 first. What is it you want to put into this? And we have a list of questions, so they can answer each question. They can look at each section and they can go, right, okay, we're going to do this, 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 and this. Perfect. Then we're going to do this, 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 and this. And before you know it, just by answering a few simple questions throughout the book, you've then got all the preparation that you need to in order to write your own notes and to present your own classes, because we also look at how you're going to present it on the day. We look at time, and we look at all the little bits that you need to think about in order to be able to present it and be quite comfortable in yourself about presenting this to other people. So now that we've got the plug for the book out of the way, it wasn't quite what I intended it to be, but if we look at Reiki 1 to start with, Reiki 1 is basically an introduction to Reiki. It's a place where you can experience the energy yourself, where you can work with the energy, where you can pass the energy on to objects and to people and to animals. Now, when I say people, I'm not saying that you can be a practicing practitioner. It's certainly not what I teach my students, but it is giving you an opportunity to work with friends and family, people who are close to you, people who aren't going to take you to court or sue you when you've given them a Reiki treatment. Because at the end of the day, you're just learning, you're just a student, and you need to get the practice, you need to feel the working with the energy, but at the same time, you need people in order to be able to practice on, So having a wee group of people there that you can work with or that you can work on is really, really good. Now, this could be your own children, it could be your partner, it could be your mum or dad. And one of the things that we look at, aside from working on other people, is the different ways in which you can use the Reiki energy. So we can look at things like a house plant that's needing a little pick-me-up. You can give Reiki to it. Now, I've actually done a bit of an experiment. I had an aloe vera plant which wasn't doing particularly well. and I simply wrote the Reiki symbols on the 4 sides of the plant pot. Now, it was a plastic plant pot it was in, and I put it right back to where it had been. I gave it a little drop of water. I didn't do anything else other than write the symbols on the outside. So Reiki symbols, just to give you a quick overview, when you are a practicing Reiki practitioner, some people get symbols on Reiki 1. I don't give symbols on Reiki 1 because I want it to be all about the energy. So on Reiki 2, I give out some symbols, and those symbols are used for various different things when you're practicing as a practitioner on somebody. So I took the symbols, I drew them on the outside of the aloe vera plant, and I put it back where it had originally been sitting. And I think it only took about a week before that plant then started to perk up and was looking an awful lot better, which was absolutely fantastic. So Reiki can work in amazing ways, and like I say, with Reiki 1 we look at different ways in which you can use it. Now, I try not to tell people how to use it, but I do actively encourage them to think outside the box, to think about the CD player, to think about the car, to think about the plants, to think about whatever it is that you need to do to help your situation or help the environment that you're in. One of the most common things, or one of the most common ways to use Reiki, is to give your food Reiki. So if you're going to drink water, give it Reiki before you drink it. If you're going to have your food, give it Reiki before you eat it. Now, if you think of, to go back to a previous podcast where we spoke about energy and how different objects or different things can hold on to energy. If you think of an animal, now I haven't eaten meat in 27 years, but if you not intentionally eat meat in 27 years, I should clarify that. I have been fed meat mistakenly on several occasions, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, if you imagine that you're sitting down to some meat and you're eating the meat, that animal suffered the death before you got to eat the meat. So whether that animal was treated fairly or abused, or just simply the fact that their life was cut short, that energy is going to be contained within the meat. You're now eating that meat, and you're eating that energy too. So there's going to be a side effect to that, or a cause of that. Now, it could be something that's really obvious, or it might not be obvious at all. So if you were to turn around and give the meat Reiki and clear it out before you ate it, then you're releasing the energy that's contained within it, and you're boosting the goodness. So you're boosting the iron and the protein and everything that comes with the meat, so that when you eat it, it's much better for you, and it vibes with your energy better. So like I say, that's a really good way of using the Reiki. Now, one of the other ways where I've recommended Reiki to people is especially where, say, a child or a parent or somebody who couldn't sit for a long length of time and receive Reiki, where they're concerned, you can actually give Reiki to the surroundings that they're going to be sitting in. Now, I don't recommend, I'm not promoting giving somebody Reiki who hasn't given their consent to it, who hasn't given their permission to it, because just like with everything, you need to give your permission. But if somebody isn't feeling well, perhaps it's something that's going on in their head, it could be something more serious. What you can actually do is you can give where they're sleeping or where they're lying, so the bed, the pillows, the bedclothes, whatever, you can give that Reiki so that when they lie in that space, the space is cleared out of any negative energy. So whatever thoughts they've been having about their situation or about their illness, and maybe if they've got a little frustrated with their situation and they've had an argument with somebody, so you can give that energy, that space energy, you can give that, clear out that space and give it Reiki energy so that it releases all the negativity, it releases the bad thoughts, it releases the argument, it releases all that. And then they're lying in a situation which is healing. they're lying in an environment, I should say, which is healing. They're lying in a space which is charged up with wonderful, amazing universal energy. That energy is going to soak back into them, and then that's going to help boost their own energy. It's going to boost their own system, and it's going to help them fight whatever it is that they're having to fight out off. Now, I should probably say at this point that if somebody is terminally ill, they're terminally ill. Now, if you're a Reiki practitioner, you have to believe that you can heal them. You have to believe that whatever it is that you're going to give them in this universal life energy, life force energy, it's going to be for their greatest and highest good. And that may mean that the energy doesn't go to them. If it's not their will to receive the energy, then that's just something you need to accept. But you have to believe that you're going to heal this person before you do it, because you're putting that intention out into the energy that you're sending out. So you're almost saying, right, okay, yeah, you're not going to heal them, but make them feel a little bit better. That's not good. You want to channel the energy with the belief that you can heal whatever's wrong with them, and then the energy will go to wherever it can for their greatest and highest good. And that's what it's all about. So that's Reiki 1. Reiki 2 is where we work on the general public. So it's where you're trained up with different hand positions, you're given the symbols, you're explained, what you need to do in an environment to prepare, if you're going to set up a Reiki bed, if you're going to have sheets and pillows and blankets and things for the person, simple health and safety facts like, having fresh linen and then changing it out after each person, not reusing the same stuff so that there's nothing that can be transferred from one person to the other, all this sort of stuff. So that's Reiki 2. And then Reiki 3 is your master level. For some people, it's just a master and then they go on to do their teachers separately. And for some people, they have the master teacher all combined up into one. So the master level goes a little deeper into what you can do, what the Reiki energy is all about. And it also gives you another symbol called the master symbol, so that you can then replace the first 3 symbols with this master symbol, and away you go about your business. Now, the teacher section is where you pass on the energy to somebody else, where you pass on the attunement to somebody else. So it's where you make your own practitioners, or where you pass on the energy to your own practitioners so that they can work within the space. Again, right back over to Reiki 1, Reiki 2 and Reiki Master Teacher. Now, something else you can do with the energy. I've spoken about where you can work hands-on and hands-off with somebody, but another way you can work with somebody is through distant healing. And what that basically means is that the healer or the practitioner is sat in one room and the person receiving the healing is somewhere else. So they can be in a different room within the house, they can be in a different country, they can be on the other side of town, wherever they are. If somebody asks you to send them healing, then that's something you can do as well. Now, there's lots of different ways in which we can do this. I have various different ones out there where you visualize one end as being the head, one end being the feet, and then everything in between is the rest of the body. And you either hold it in your hand or you physically imagine that you're working down through the body. So you move your hands down all the different positions of the body, down along the wand, and that energy is then sent out to the person that you want to send it to. You can also hold the wand and direct it to the person so that you're using it as a channel to channel the Reiki energy and send it to the person that it's meant to go to. So the Reiki energy and all it's capable of doing is pretty amazing. One of the other things we can do as practitioners is we can send out Reiki energy through technology. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause for a minute and I'm going to give you an opportunity to think of yourself or anybody you would like to send healing out to. And in that space, I'm going to quietly send out Reiki to whoever's listening to it and direct the energy to whoever it is that needs it most and whoever it is that you've asked for the healing. So just take a wee moment now. You can say it out loud, you can say it in your head, you can just simply think of the person, and we're going to send out the energy. And so it is. I paused the recording just for a moment there and did my closing prayer as well. So it means that any energy be sent out to those who need it, but also that I'm disconnected from whoever it is that the healing's gone to, and the healing will still get to them in the future. Whenever you listen to this podcast and think about whoever it is that you want the healing for, please be also aware that you should ask for yourself. It's not selfish. If you are looking after people or you are helping people around your home or in your life in general, maybe it's your work life, then asking for healing for yourself is the best possible thing, because if you get healing yourself, you're going to be in better form, you're going to feel better, and then when you come to work with these people, you'll be in a much better position to do it, and you will give them better help and provide better healing for them, provide whatever it is that you're doing for them to help them. So in actual fact, by you asking for healing for yourself, it's going to help the people around about you. So if you've asked for healing for anybody who you work for or work with, or as a family member that you help with, then you have to ask for yourself as well, because in doing so, that's going to get you the extra healing so that you can help them more. So it's almost like if you give the healing to yourself, you're going to help them more, because you're going to be able to help them more, literally. So I'm going to quickly say thank you to you for whoever it is that you asked for healing for, whether it was yourself or whether it was someone who needs it most. Thank you. As this podcast draws to a close, I would like to remind you that if you are interested in any of the services I provide, you can contact me through orla@orlaallen.com and drop me a wee message. Let me know that you've heard the podcast and that's where the question has come from, and I will do my best to get to your message and to answer your questions. So whether it's to join our online development group, whether it's about Reiki, whatever it's about, just drop me a wee message and I will hopefully do my best to get you sorted there. So just as quickly as we started, we've come to a conclusion, and I just want to thank you as always for joining me on the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, again, drop me a wee email, orla@orlaallen.com, and I will answer your questions if I can, and if not, I will find out the answers for you, either by asking Spirit directly or by asking another Reiki practitioner if it's Reiki related. So I hope you have an absolutely blessed week. I hope a blessed fortnight, actually. I hope that you find many, many joys in life. And I hope that life finds you very well and without the need for healing energy. But if you need healing energy, then I hope it gets to you. Thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Namaste.